One fall afternoon in England, a loving wife and mother of two was found murdered in her home. The case shocked the community, who rallied to help police. A common eyewitness detail stood out. A large man in blue overalls was seen asking for directions around town. Who was this man, and did he kill an innocent woman? Today, we're investigating the mystery of the overalls man and the murder of Julie Pacey. This is Red Web. Welcome back, mystery lovers, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, true crime, and a sprinkling of the paranormal. I am your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor Collins, and joining me, hearing this case for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
It's a bit of a sad one.
It's a sad one for sure.
Wife and kids never want to like in their own home. I don't know. It's terrifying. Home invasion, period. Terrifying.
This case is really interesting, and it is a sad one. No matter how you slice it, a true crime case is always disheartening, but this one especially, as you pointed out, they're entering the home. It is a personal space, your own sanctuary. If nowhere else in the world can you call safe and home, then your house, what else, right? And so I will say, as we do sometimes, there are some topics in this episode we're going to put in the description. If you want a content warning for those things, you can check that out. But this case is really, really interesting because of the fact that there aren't really a long list of suspects. We just have a very straightforward case and then some very odd details that came up in the investigation when talking to the locals. Again, yes, this overalls man came up and some other strange details that we'll kind of break down and build out. But again, whenever you have an unsolved case, there's always these odd quirks and these just elements that you can't account for, and this case is kind of riddled with them, yeah. Now, before we dive into the case, there's a few things happening in the Red Web sphere that I want to make sure that you guys know about. This Wednesday on our Patreon page at redwebpod.com, we're declassifying yet another research outline. And then on Thursday, Alfredo, right now we're planning to release our reactions to the Yorktown Memorial Hospital findings. This includes Task Force your comments to the bonus footage, also exclusive to Patreon. We have some static cams if you want to scroll through those, and any comments that of things you saw, we're going to react to those. Also, some of our editors went through and they found a few things that we're going to react to, so that's going to be on Thursday for you guys. And then on Friday, of course, we have our monthly behind the scenes podcast called Break Room, where you can come interact with us and the show. We record that live and then we put it out the next month, and so that's coming out on Friday.
A lot of goodies. I also have not seen anything yet. I've heard from Dennis or Christian that there's just a lot of clips of unexplained things.
Moments.
And so that one still shook me. I need to go back and watch it. I really do. I'm still in that phase of disbelief, but we'll see what happens.
The disbelief settles in when the sun rises, but then when you get back in those environments, it gets weird. It's so weird how you have two minds, but yeah, so Yorktown Memorial Hospital, we revisited that location, Task Force. That is up on our YouTube page or wherever you watch us, where we went back ghost investigating. And we always try to go in and diagnose and debunk things that we hear and really have an analytical lens. But this time there was some stuff that really unsettled us. And so I'm very eager to see some of these clips that Dennis has, as well as react with you, Fredo, for the first time and look at some of these. For better or worse, Fredo.
I know, man.
All right. With that, let's dive into the case. So on September 26, 1994, Julie Pacey was found murdered in her home in Grantham, Lincolnshire, England. Now, again, right out of the gate, we have an image of our victim here. This is an image of Julie Pacey. There are many images of her online, but what's most heart-wrenching about seeing this particular image is that it is quintessential 90s mom.
It is.
I see a lot of my own mom here, and it's gut-wrenching.
Yeah, the quality of the photo, the hairstyle, she had the bangs, the ponytail, massive gold chain.
I didn't see that.
That's unexpected for sure.
Yeah.
But very, very 90s.
Now, to give you a rough idea of where Grantham is, it's about 110 miles or 177 kilometers north of London, with a population of roughly 34,000 people. And I think this is from a 1991 census, though I'll be honest, it was pretty difficult to find the population around this time. At the turn of the century, it became closer to 45,000 people, but suffice to say, it's a relatively small town. And I would say, if you know England roughly, it's kind of smack dab in the middle if you're looking north to south. It's a small town, relatively out there. Also, while looking into Grantham, just as some fun facts here, I didn't know this at all, but Isaac Newton went to school there in his youth. He was born just a few miles away.
Oh, okay.
But also, yeah, dude, that was wild. But also, this small town, a lot of people coming out of it, was the birthplace of the polarizing former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher.
Oh.
So, small town, big history.
Yeah. Well, yeah, giving birth to some very influential people.
Yeah, and that's just like a brief look. But yeah, so that's kind of the location that we're going to be spending all of this case in. Now, Pacey lived in a nice bungalow-style home with her husband Andrew and her 2 children. You have 14-year-old Helen and 11-year-old Matthew. Pacey, who was 38 years old at the time of her death, had been married to Andrew for about 18 years. So they were young loves. I mean, the 2 were actually childhood sweethearts, Fredo. They met when they were just 8 years old.
Oh my God.
Not that they were dating at 8, but, you know, when they got married at 20,
you know, their whole entire life.
Yes. Again, it's a truly heartbreaking case. But yeah, they knew each other from youth. About 20 or so, I think is what it was. They got married, had kids together. Now, Andrew worked for a local plumbing business in their town, and Julie worked part-time at a local nursery, which happened to be located right across the street from the local police department. And in addition to this, she also regularly cared for a girl in their neighborhood after her shifts at the nursery. So essentially, she would get off work, she would come home, and the girl would then come over after school, and then Julie would watch over her until her parents got off work, pick her up, and then they would take her home. This is important because this little girl will have a key eyewitness testimony to come.
Oh.
So all in all, the family was described as having a peaceful, normal life in a quiet town. Andrew described his wife as someone who got along with everybody. She was quite friendly, well-liked, she was considered to be kind, considerate, and of course, all the more heartbreaking, cared deeply for her family. But that brings us now to the morning of Monday, September 26th, again, 1994. Let's walk through the day that then culminated in her early end. Julie left the house around 10 a.m. and headed to the nursery for her afternoon shift. Her husband had already left for the day for his work. He was working with his brother on a plumbing contract for Petchney Packaging over on Springfield Road. I didn't really locate that as far as where it is to the family, but it's a small town, so not too far away. After her shift then concluded, Julie returned home around 2:45 p.m. We couldn't get a lot of details as to how they arrived at 2:45 p.m., but this is based on her schedule, eyewitness accounts, coworkers, and things. This is just what we have on record. So she arrives home at 2:45 p.m. after her shift, and shortly after, she is seen driving on High Cliff Road. So that is a street that intersects with her own street, just a few houses down. So she is on Long Cliff, and then a few houses down from her, High Cliff kind of intersects right with it, or tees right into it.
Okay.
So she's seen by a neighbor driving in the family car, which is an Audi, and we'll talk more about that car in a second. And this would have been around 3:20 p.m. So seemingly she was returning home from somewhere else, not work. We'll talk more about this little timeline in a bit here, but some sources say it's a little unclear as to where she was going to or coming from, but other accounts say that she was returning from the shops in the area. So seemingly she went home, then popped out to the shops, and this is a neighbor kind of seeing her come back. Now we jump to 4:15 p.m. Helen, her daughter, is returning home from school, and this is unfortunately when she found her mother deceased in their home. So Julie's body was found fully clothed on the first floor bathroom. Though her clothes seemed to be disheveled, they were a bit messy and disarranged on her body. She had what was called a ligature mark on her neck, or in other words, kind of a pressure mark from something having been wrapped tightly around it, a cord, a wire, something like that. So the signs of a strangulation. And from this, that's what kind of investigators concluded, that she must have been strangled by a cord or something of that nature.
Jeez, yeah, so a very intimate death.
And while it was concluded that she had been strangled, there were other details indicating that she had also been sexually assaulted, and this conclusion comes from medical examiners at the time.
I was hoping I was hoping that wasn't the case.
Yeah. It's a truly disheartening and unfortunate pattern you see, especially with these unsolved murders of women, that this tends to also come with it. It's terrible, I mean, to say the least, but it is part of this case. There's not a lot of other details. You know, I'm always very respectful about the clues, the details of that nature that lead investigators to those conclusions, but to be transparent, a lot of sources don't really indicate what those clues might have been, so we're just going to quote the medical examiners at the time on that. Now, upon scanning the home, this is where things get a little more peculiar and the murder takes on a more particular air. The home is scanned, and it appears that the only thing taken from the residence was a French Luc de Roche watch. This was a watch that she had purchased while she was on a recent vacation in France. And this implies that a very thorough investigation was done because they identified one thing missing. All indications report that nothing else from the house had gone missing. Everything else was essentially untouched, no sign of break-in or anything. So it just stands out that this one watch was taken. And I also want to add some details to that because given it's the only item missing, one might conclude, hey, is it a valuable item? Was this a murder crime kind of tangential thing? Well, when you look up the value of the watch at the time, it was no more than 10 British pounds, which if you convert for inflation and currency conversion to the US dollar, it's only about $28.50 today.
Yeah, so it wasn't worth anything.
Wasn't worth anything.
I mean, they might have taken it thinking that it was worth something.
It's possible. Yeah, that is very possible. And then maybe in a hurry just didn't bother stealing anything else.
Yeah.
Totally. Now, at that time, when investigators are looking at this scene, there was an early theory that this killer might have stolen this watch and then potentially given it to a wife, a girlfriend, somebody else. And this was, I believe, in hopes of stoking a watchdog net, right? So the public would be on lookout for this very specific watch.
Got it.
And then if they saw somebody wearing that watch, let the police know. They can investigate how'd you get the watch, who gave it to you, things of that nature. But since then, the leading theory has kind of shifted. That since nothing else in the house went missing and that the watch itself had never been found, never seen again, and wasn't of great value, the leading theory was actually that this killer might have taken it as a trophy of the crime itself, which morbidly does make sense.
Yeah. We don't talk about that too much. Doesn't come up all the time, but it's definitely something that happens, like taking a memento.
Mm-hmm. Something to, I don't know, try to put yourself in the mind of, a sociopathic or psychopathic killer, to relive it, just to remind yourself, who knows what dark deed that is.
Exactly. Put it in a little shrine or box and then they could, Yeah. So this person was sick.
Right. This was very seemingly personal. And we'll talk more about the details that kind of imply that too. But what really had me and my gears turning was this watch. I mean, this case isn't super thoroughly detailed in a lot of sources, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a docuseries called Crime Watch that covered this at the time. I'll talk about them as well. But I was really curious if any sources noted that she was particularly precious about this watch, or if she wore this watch all the time, indicating that maybe it was on her person when she was murdered. Maybe that's why they took it. None of those details exist. Kat did a thorough kind of search across all of the sources and didn't see anything like that. But it would stand to reason, and I do kind of subscribe to the idea of this being a trophy, all things considered. But yeah. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Brooklyn Bedding. Task Force, I was in the market for a new mattress not too long ago, and Brooklyn Bedding came across many search results as the top mattresses, and they are the people I went with, so it's really awesome that they sponsor Red Web now. But I have, with my wife, the Aurora Luxe cooling mattress with the pillow top. It is the medium firmness, so it can fit both of our different sleeping styles. It is super affordable and amazing. We really love this mattress. We needed an upgrade, and this one is awesome. It has that cooling feel, so if you're a hot sleeper, it's good for you. But they also have the soft, medium, and firm mattresses, so no matter how you sleep or how you want to sleep, they've got you covered. And if you don't know them, Brooklyn Bedding handcrafts every single mattress in their Arizona factory. They have no middlemen and no gimmicks, just top-tier quality, honest pricing, and real American craftsmanship for a better night's sleep. If you're not sure which mattress is right for you, because they do have a lot to offer, you can just take the Brooklyn Bedding Sleep Quiz, and they will help you find your perfect match in under 2 minutes. Brooklyn Bedding also offers a tremendous 120-night comfort trial, so you're gonna love it, but if you don't, you got 120 nights to try it out, and then you can return or swap it hassle-free. Task Force, go to brooklynbedding.com and use our promo code REDWEB at checkout to get 30% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. That's brooklynbedding.com, and promo code REDWEB will get you 30% off site-wide. Support our show, let them know we sent you after checkout, and save 30%. brooklynbedding.com, promo code REDWEB. So now moving kind of into the investigation. Of course, police are quickly establishing, or as best they can, a motive for this crime. And given that she was assaulted, they kind of assume that this would be a sexually motivated crime, otherwise randomly targeting. And what stands out is that there's no signs of a struggle in her home. And we've seen this before in cases. No broken windows, no sign of like forced entry, nothing tipped over, nothing disheveled even, except for Julie and her personal belongings on herself.
Yeah, I mean, it could have very well been a like knock on the door, she answers it, think it's a solicitor, then they force their way in, which is, it's just terrifying, man. That's just, it's too real.
Yes, it's eerily real, and it's why I'm like, I feel like I'm losing my marbles a little bit sometimes when I'm like, if I, on the rare occasion, I DoorDash or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of want that person to be gone before I poke my head out. And, I'm like the Lorax. I'm peeking through the blinds and making sure it's clear. And I don't know if it's because I do this podcast or I'm a little like paranoid or whatever.
You just got to make sure. I mean, it takes little to no effort to just make sure.
Right. So I think your gut instinct is right on the money in this particular case, but as we're kind of researching this and looking through, it's everything's in its rightful place. It does feel like someone familiar. Maybe they were allowed in, or maybe, yes, the door was unlocked and they knocked and what have you. Interestingly enough, though, while her clothes seemed to be disheveled, the house is all fine. Her nails remained perfectly manicured and unbroken, further indicating that there was a lack of a physical struggle. And from this, police believe that Julie must have been surprised by her attacker, that maybe she was attacked while her back was turned. And to build on this, they also kind of indicated that she was face down, and so maybe she was almost jumped while she was already in the restroom, and that's where everything took place, including the murder, and then the person just fled. But yeah, I mean, these are very important things to look out for. Sometimes you can find DNA or, skin or hair under the nails if there was a scuffle or a broken nail, but not in this case.
I mean, yeah, this is the time where like DNA is in play, right? 94?
Yeah, we don't have a DNA profile for this particular case. I'll let you know until 2015, I believe. But yeah, around the turn of the century, we really start to see DNA becoming a little bit more prominent in either convicting people or liberating people from false imprisonment or false convictions.
It's wild how it worked both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, I believe at least DNA samples could have been taken and we wouldn't have maybe just had full profiles for a little bit of time here. But so continuing to look at the scene, because really there isn't a whole lot to go off of. Investigators start to eerily suspect that Helen, who found her mom in the restroom, might have gotten home just mere minutes after this crime took place.
How old is Helen again?
Matthew was 11. Okay. Helen was 14. Still very traumatic.
Yeah, that's just, oh my goodness. You'd see it in like pop culture movies, documentaries all the time, but like to just come home and then see that, come across that, Even if it wasn't a murder case, even if it's just like, someone unfortunately had a heart attack or aneurysm or something like that, the shock value, like, what do you do? And then you're the one that's like having to pick up the pieces, right? To just walk in, your life has changed forever.
Right. Scarring. The reason why they believe that it happened mere potentially minutes before Helen arrived home, which feels very almost intentional, like somebody who would know the schedule, right? That they could get in and out without, anybody else being there, is because, of course, they looked at the state of the body. You can kind of get a rough idea of time of death. But also, intriguingly, the keys were still left in the front door. So when Julie got home, she unlocked the front door. This kind of implies that whoever this person was, they might have been hanging around nearby and then, kind of to your point, whether they knocked or not, forced their way in as soon as the door was open.
Which is even more terrifying because she was probably just opening her door, and then they ran up and then like forced her into the house along with themselves.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's too real.
I had this actually woke up a memory I had of, I want to say, I think 9 years ago or something. I came home. It was like a later evening. We went out to dinner. I come back and I pull into my driveway, and there's somebody who's kind of disheveled at the end of my driveway. I get out of my car. It's an outdoor garage, and I need to go into the house. And they're calling my attention, trying to pull me out to the street. And it's a big, like, sob story. And obviously, I can't tell what's going on. They're in the dark. They're saying they're hurt. And I don't know what to do about this. So I go inside. I say, stay right here. I'm going to call the police for you, etc. And I did. And one thing I didn't know was that my friend who was with me happened to be looking out the window around this time when I'm calling police.
Right.
And there was an abandoned house next to me. People hadn't lived in it for years, but there was a car with its lights off there. And when I finish up with the police, my friend had told me that they don't know where the woman went, but suddenly this car with its lights off backed out and pulled away. And for years, I've thought about what that would have looked like if I had possibly opened my front door, because I went in through the back. If I'd possibly opened my front door, and who else might have been out there. And again, I'm caught between wanting to help somebody and trusting that that's the reality, and the other possibility, which is they're lying and manipulating, and that there's somebody else waiting in the wings. It's haunting.
You just can't risk it, man. You just can't. But the beauty is, like, you do what you were trying to do, and you just call the police. You go, hey, you need help? I'm not qualified to help you. I will call the authorities for you, and you can sit in front of my house, and and I'll be inside my house, so I'm not too far away. And then you and I will wait for the authorities to arrive.
Yeah, dude.
The crazy thing is, imagine if that happens, and then they have their accomplice run up and fake attacking them, and you go out to help, right? Because in that situation, you're like, oh my God, I think they're being attacked. And you go out to help, and it's all just a setup. Like,
dude, because I don't think I've shared this story publicly, so I'm reserving a lot of details. Just
yeah, for sure.
Because it's weird.
I have not heard the story from you.
This is a level of personal that I haven't really shared, but but because it's so relevant to this case and it is so real, I want this to be like a word of caution to anybody. I don't know, but your instincts are 100% accurate, because of. She was saying things like, they're out to get me, someone's going to get me. And she's saying it worse than that. Like the level of harm they're going to do to her, and they're going to kill her and things.
Right. And so I'm like, distress in her voice and panic in her voice and everything. Oh.
And I'm like, what? And so anyway, you're just not wrong is the thing. Anyway, not to make this about me, but I'm just like this again, while reading through this case, it just I just had forgotten about that until this very vivid scene.
It's the reality, man. It's dangerous outside, people have the ability to just kind of do what they want. I just have random fear. Like, I'll ride around on my little one wheel, and I'm like, when I'm riding through a crowd, just kind of moseying at 2 miles an hour, I'm like, someone could literally just shove me right off this thing if they wanted to.
Right.
They're just like,
right,
for no reason.
You could get hurt, or they're just there now, and you're just like, okay, what what now? What happens next?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like random stuff like that. It's like, yeah, someone, the person standing next to you can cause great harm to you. So you just kind of have this like blind trust that like, okay, if I'm in public, nothing will happen. But that doesn't stop someone from just being like, their mind is shattered, and then they're like, I don't care.
The world is terrifying, and every possibility is nearly endless.
That and all the trust that we put in cars was the people driving next to you.
I've seen some of these drivers locked onto their phone. I gotta be honest.
Many people. Some people locked into their phone, and it's just like, dude, what are you? Just like this. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like fully looking down at the gear shift on their phone, or like, okay, I don't want to get grandpa about it, but also, when you have instant gratification, you're swiping, you get impatient. I see that behavior now at like stop signs everywhere. Well, if I just blow the stop sign, I can just go. I can just be out of your way and I'll just go. And I'm like, yeah, but you're unpredictable and it's super not your turn to go. What are you doing? What are people doing? Anyway.
Yeah, I always say like when you're driving, the worst thing is to be indecisive. If you're forcing your way in or you're being super passive, the other person can read that and be like, they're driving like an asshole or something like that. You know what I mean? But when you're like, I've seen people just like, I'll go, maybe not, I'll go, maybe don't go. I'm like, bro, I don't know what the hell your move is right here.
Right. Be predictable. Follow the rules of the road, right of way and all that. So anyway, continuing with this very vivid detail, the keys were still in the front lock when Helen comes home, indicating, yes, that whoever this person was, potentially this man in overalls that we'll talk about, seemingly must have been in the area and pushed their way in when she had her back turned, when she's just entering her home at the end of the day. And Julie's parents actually believe that the killer must have known her personally, or at least knew of her, because she did have a bit of a schedule, but they believed it was too large of a coincidence that her attack happened on the one day that she didn't babysit the girl that she frequently cared for after school. Remember the same girl that she would see for at least maybe an hour or two every day.
So are we thinking that this person tracked her schedule?
Possibly. Again, this is her parents. Now there's two schools of thought at the end of this case, and we'll arrive there together, but on one hand, this was a crime of opportunity and kind of random. On the other hand, that this is somebody who cased the joint, understood maybe a little bit more about this particular person's schedule, and maybe otherwise randomly chose them, but then got a little bit of insight in order to then perpetuate this crime. I want to see how you feel once we go through some of these things, because as this investigation continued, there's a few strange details that begin to stand out to investigators when they started to note the events, when they started to talk to all the locals. And these events didn't just happen the day of the murder. They kind of began in the days leading up to. So on one hand, we have the detail of a car. And then, because I don't want to bury the lead too much, we do have the details around the man in the blue overalls. So first and foremost, the Paceys were known to have an Audi 80 as their family car. I have two images for you. Go ahead and take a look at, as I've labeled it, B1. This is a rough approximation of their 90s Audi 80. There's only one source that mentions the color, and that's gray. And so I pulled up a silver one just so you could see it.
Okay. It looks like an 80s car.
I used to not like the 90s aesthetic, the cars, the wardrobe, and everything. And much to my chagrin, much to my 9-year-old chagrin, it's coming around. I'll be like, you could catch me driving that. I would drive that.
Yeah, man.
I like that.
I love old school cars. My only thing is just the interior. I like an updated interior. You know what I mean? There's some beautiful old cars, but I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to crank my window up and down. You know what I mean?
Trying to roll them windows. Right.
Not to like own and drive, but then again, you don't drive those every day type stuff or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, my car's not too far from a 90s model at this point, but she's got power, this is and that. So I agree. You need a little bit of modern sensibilities. I don't know. Okay, so this is the family car. She's been seen in the Audi 80. Again, only one source says what color it is. Otherwise, it's never really mentioned. So just be honest about that. Now, when the locals were being interviewed, several people insisted to the police when they were recounting that weekend that they saw Julie driving not the Audi 80, but rather a 5 Series BMW several times throughout that weekend. So not just once, not just twice, but a few times in the weekend leading up to the murder. And I do have an image of this car as well. Again, it's a rough approximation. I don't know specifically what year. And once again, only one source mentions a color, and in this case, blue. But otherwise, we're not super certain.
It's a beautiful BMW in a beautiful blue color. Very pretty.
It is. Now, initially, for you, Fredo, I had a silver of both models. Because, again, we didn't really know the color. And I was going to kind of open up the idea that maybe it was a misidentification, that they didn't know that it was an Audi or a BMW. If you don't know cars super well, the silhouette of these cars is very similar, especially when they're both the same color.
It's very similar. If it isn't the blue, this is a blue that stands out. And BMWs in general stand out.
Yeah.
And I know the logo. I've seen the logo, and you hear about the BMW and stuff like that. But did the husband say anything about, like, you know what I mean?
Great question.
Was this
Very good question.
A rental? Was the car in the shop and this was a loaner vehicle? Like, weird to be a BMW.
You're cooking.
But still.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen it happen. I love where your head's at. You're cooking on gas right now, because those are very natural questions. And I'm going to get right ahead of it because you asked. The family insists, they remain adamant, I should say, that she never had access to such a car. Not that she didn't rent it, not that she didn't have a friend that had it, not that she didn't know somebody that she was looking after it for, or that she bought it or test drove it. Literally that she had no access to such a car. So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we go through a couple of these eyewitness accounts.
Yeah, because I'm more inclined to trust the family. There's really no ulterior motive and no reason to lie unless something randomly pops up.
Right. Unless you're talking about, like, okay, maybe this was a friend that the family didn't know of or didn't want to acknowledge. I can see how you could possibly make all of this work.
Yeah, I can also see if someone spins a tale of an affair or whatever. They're just driving the man's car around or whatnot. Sure.
Right. I'll go ahead and say none of that seems to be the case. But, okay, so what's with these eyewitness accounts? Well, let's start with those details and see if we can find our way there. So, on the day of the murder itself, there was an acquaintance that lived nearby, an acquaintance of Julie's, who said she saw her driving the BMW. And what adds weight to this particular account is that she was driving behind, we don't know how close, but she was driving behind Julie, and she sees this BMW turn into the driveway, where she also sees the Audi. And I believe this is the only account of seeing both cars in the same eyewitness testimony, which means that there is definitely a second car in play. This isn't a misidentified vehicle. This is definitely a second car. Now, this acquaintance didn't think anything suspicious was going on because apparently they had seen Julie driving this same car before. But this is where I want to break down a little bit of a timeline because it starts to get interesting. This eyewitness said they saw her driving the BMW at 2:50 p.m. Again, this is the day of the murder. And remember, she had just returned home at 2:45 p.m. So all this information comes from BBC's docuseries called Crime Watch. And this would indicate that she got home at 2:45 p.m., immediately left again in the BMW, only to return home 5 minutes later, and then quickly once again got back in the Audi, went back to the shops, maybe do a bit of shopping or whatever she's doing, and then was seen coming back at 3:20 p.m., which is, it's not impossible, but it's curious.
It's just such a tight timeline. I mean, I guess like what? Drive the BMW, you're swapping the car, then you got stuff to do, so I can see that. But also, like, if it was to be something like an affair or whatnot, it's like you are making it very obvious. What a sloppy move, if that were the case.
If that were the case, for sure. Now, this next part is more of a revelation to us because I kind of, as I was continuing to investigate this particular car, it was very interesting. Why are we so hooked on this car? Well, there's a detail that I recently found out that, again, according to Crime Watch, at the estimated time of murder, witnesses recount seeing a BMW of this description flying down the road away from the house on Longcliff, the same street she lives on. And so from this, it's kind of heavily implied that this mysterious BMW is not her vehicle, but rather than belongs perhaps to the killer. So why is she driving it? Does she and the killer know one another? Is that where the affair is coming from? Or, this is kind of what I was thinking, did Julie's acquaintance see her pulling into the driveway and assume it was Julie based on the time of day, based on her habits, But actually, she might have been too far away to actually see if it was Julie or not, and maybe this was the killer showing up at the house, pulling into the driveway
with their car,
and being in the area ready to perpetuate the crime.
That is a bold move, and that's someone that is just off the rails, because at that point they don't care. They just, what's going on? What's cooking that head of yours?
Something popped. Okay, so I'm convinced that it is the killer is driving this car around. I'm kind of confused as to how eyewitnesses see Julie driving it. That is the real kind of confusing point. Like, why are they seeing Julie driving this, especially if it's the murderer's car, especially if there's no known relationship here that we're aware of. But the fact that this car rolled into the driveway at 2:50 p.m., 5 minutes after she got home, really indicates to me that this person truly knew her schedule.
Yep.
Pulled in next to the Audi, but then she goes to the shops. Does she not see the BMW in her driveway?
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. So again, it's really odd. So unless something
timing does not work out.
It's very strange. So that's where I'm like, are sources a little wrong? Was something misreported? Or is there more to this that we might never know?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, right? Like, the sources got to be off in some capacity, where even if your family's like, oh, she doesn't drive a BMW. And here's the thing. Did they see two cars? You said that they saw a BMW next to the Audi. So they saw two cars?
This was the acquaintance,
right?
And she was driving behind her on Longcliff.
Right.
She sees the BMW pull into the driveway next to the Audi.
Okay.
And she says it's Julie. That could be an assumption.
Right. I mean, the assumption there, I feel like that's an assumption there. But I feel like the person would know if they saw two cars.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a detail where it's like, I saw two cars next to each other. That doesn't seem like something you just make up.
That's the case with all these unsolved mysteries, is that it's the stuff you don't know that's right in front of you that really aggravates and makes you go like, well, what was reality? What was actually going on? What are the details here?
And this is why, you know what I mean? Detectives expense red string.
Right.
Because at this point, I need
enough.
to I need to put it on a board with the timeline, the place, and the vehicle, and the street, and like put strings to things and take a step back and just look at it. You know what I mean? Like, I need to visually like look at this thing on the wall.
Right. You need to look and peer through the puff of smoke from your cigarette butt that you're still sucking on to see if any truth comes out of these strings. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Uncommon Goods. The countdown is on. Holiday shopping season has officially arrived, and hey, we are getting a little bit ahead of the game, but I need to arm you, task force, with some knowledge. Uncommon Goods takes the stress out of gifting with thousands of unique, high-quality finds you won't see anywhere else. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high-quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. Many are crafted by independent artists and small businesses, making every gift feel meaningful and truly one of a kind. When I don't know where else to look, I truly do look to Uncommon Goods, the way they categorize things by price or who you're trying to give it to, or the category. If you're looking for puzzles, if you're looking for trinkets, if you're looking for scientific things, they have so many fun things to play with, so many items there. I genuinely just kind of get stuff for myself. For the wife, I did get, don't tell her, but I got a few shower sprays and bath bombs. I've gotten mystery puzzles, so when you put them all together, it tells a story, and then you have to solve that mystery together. I have a book nook from Uncommon Goods. There's a lot of things that you can get there. So if you like crafting things, if you like putting things together, I think I have an egg thing so I can make egg sandwiches with my bagels, and that was handmade. It's like a handmade pottery thing. All of these things came from Uncommon Goods. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, from moms and dads to kids and teens, from book lovers, history buffs, and diehard football fans to foodies, mixologists, and avid gardeners. If you couldn't tell from my experience, listen to them. They have a little bit of everything. You truly are going to find thousands of new gift ideas that you won't find anywhere else. And with every purchase that you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3.1 million to date. So don't wait. Cross those names off your list before the rush. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/redweb. That's uncommongoods.com/redweb for 15% off. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Shady Rays. Task Force, let's talk about gifts, okay? Not the kind that get tossed into a drawer, but the kind that actually get used and appreciated. You know this. The holidays are coming fast, and you gotta make those lists and make sure that you're looking out for, yes, yourself, but also your family, your friends, your loved ones, the people that support you in life, and Shady Rays sunglasses are an easy win. Every pair is polarized, durable, and lightweight. They've got a ton of great-looking, high-performance styles that hold up no matter what you throw at them, and the price, they are way less than you'd expect for the quality that you are getting. And here's what really sets them apart. If you lose or break your shades, Shady Rays has your back with their lost and broken protection. No hassle, just a solid guarantee. So whether you're picking up a pair for someone on your list or grabbing one for yourself, Shady Rays makes gifting simple. Quality built, looks great, and actually worth it. Over these years I've talked about Shady Rays, you know my experience, but I'm a big fan. I love the polarized lenses, and I love the fact that they're always coming out with a different style. So no matter what you're looking for, the outfits you have, or the people that you're gifting to, they have a style that fits literally everyone or every occasion. I really do love their sunglasses, and I love the quality-price ratio that you're getting. They're phenomenal. So, Task Force, start your holiday gifting early and head to shadyrays.com and use code REDWEB for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Again, that's shadyrays.com using promo code REDWEB for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Well, let's paint a more vivid image. We talked about this BMW. This was definitely something that stood out in the weekend leading up to the event. But again, as I've indicated, there was a man in overalls seen around town. And this was also a peculiar sighting that also got associated with this murder. So let's wind back the clock to Friday and let's talk about this guy. So 3 days before the murder, it's Friday, September 23rd, a girl that Julie used to care for, after school, it's the same girl that habitually would come over and wait until her parents would pick her up. She noticed something strange. At 3:30 p.m., as she's approaching the Pacey home, she saw a man walking out of the driveway and away from the home. She describes him as a large man who looked about 35 years old, and he had a full face, and he was flushed pink. It is said he had ruddy cheeks, and so almost like rosacea. He had very vivid pink cheeks, rough-looking hands, maybe like somebody who worked with their hands, and was wearing blue overalls and workman's boots. We also have a sketch that was generated in 1994 based on what she saw that day, and also based on, I believe, some other eyewitness accounts. But that is image C for you, Fredo.
Yeah, I mean, this is an outfit that stands out. The blue overalls, the blue jacket, red and black flannel shirt.
The plaid.
This person stands out.
Very much so. I mean, they're 90% blue.
Right.
And 10%, including their cheeks, very red.
Yeah, so I say the red matches the cheeks.
And I mean, I gotta be honest, I don't know if murderers typecast themselves or whatever, but this appears, I'm sorry, like a lot of other serial killers and murder suspects that have been convicted in the past many decades.
It really does. The overalls, period.
Sorry, overalls.
Sorry, but I mean, like, this will be doing.
And I should say, it looks like he also has like a blue worker's jacket over the overalls, similar blue. So this little girl, we don't have her name, and I believe because she was a minor, her name was kept from the records. But this was the girl, again, that would be at Julie's house after school until her parents picked her up. And she then enters the house after seeing this scene. And all this then comes from her. After everything happened, police kind of questioned the girl to build out this image. And she then says that when she went inside, Julie actually asked her, "Hey, did you see that strange man leaving the house?" The girl said, "Yes, I saw him come up the driveway, go down the driveway, and then walk away." And then Julie explained, "Okay, good, because there was a very weird mix-up." So the girl recounts that Julie's telling her that she hears a knock at the door. And Julie, of course, on schedule, is thinking that this is the young girl. And so she calls out and says, "Hey, come on in, the door's unlocked. Happy to have you over. Let's hang out till your parents get here," right? So she calls out, and what steps in is this man, not the little girl she's expecting. Julie then says that this man in overalls entered the house and asked for directions to Eskdale Road. I believe she gave the directions and then he left. Eskdale Road, by the way, is very close, about a quarter mile away, a 6-minute walk if you prefer. So kind of in the neighborhood, but you know. So maybe it's just a friendly neighbor looking for a friend, whatever. Who knows what this guy's doing? But a terrifying image to be sure.
forcing his way into places, making himself feel at home.
I hate that. So, of course, this wouldn't be the only time this mysterious man in overalls was seen around the area. Police became aware of him primarily from the day's accounts and from this little girl giving the details, but now they were kind of keyed in on what to ask people for and what to look out for. In fact, on the day of the murder itself, the same eyewitness who saw Julie driving on Highcliffe Road at around 3:20 p.m. also reported seeing a mysterious man in overalls walking up the street. To reiterate, this was very close to the house. I would say maybe a 2 minutes walk from the house. And this witness says that she's seeing the Audi return home at around 3:20 p.m. At the same time, she's seeing this strange man who stood out because of his strange outfit and his pink cheeks. He's walking opposite. Audi goes one way, he's walking the other. And he actually starts to cross the road almost at the same time as Julie driving by, to the point where she almost collides with him. It's like a narrow avoidance of a collision. She drives by, he finishes crossing the street, he continues maybe for a few steps going in the direction he was, until suddenly, it's like a light bulb clicked. He turns around and starts running in the direction of that car.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. But I think we got our man red-handed. I think that the time, the opportunity, it's all lining up. She's getting home literally 30 seconds after this. He's on foot running. He can get there in 60 seconds probably. So in time for her to get out of the vehicle, get in, get to the front door, unlock the door. He's there now on her.
Yeah, it very much seems like this person is the I get why they're the prime and you're saying sole suspect.
Yeah, they're essentially the only suspect. Yeah.
It's
just a matter of who this person is.
Right. When we first talked about this, I was like, oh, maybe there was someone going around town looking for help, etc. But now I'm like, oh, this is a person that seemed like they were kind of just wandering around, hunting in a sense, or just...
Ooh, I hate that.
Not quite there, and then they locked onto one particular person.
Maybe the accidental, they were let in, allowed them to then go, I guess this is my target. Maybe they had been casing the neighborhood for a little bit. Who knows what motivates or causes people of this ilk to want to perpetuate this crime, but clearly they knew something about her scheduling. Now, of course, again, we're not done. This is not the only time that this man was seen. Many of these accounts throughout the weekend, several occasions, in fact, throughout the town, seeing this man as much as 4 days before the murder. That would take it back to September 22nd. Witnesses primarily note the very vivid blue outfit. It just stood out, and the red cheeks as well. And by many accounts, this man was continuously asking people for directions to different places, then never asking them to clarify or repeat themselves. It was just like, it's like he had buzzwords of streets to say. Hey, do you know where Eskdale Road is? Hey, how can I get to the barbershop or whatever? They answer, and then he just leaves. Almost like is he building an alibi? Is he trying to appear as a local?
Right.
I don't know.
But I mean, like, building an alibi, it's also just like you're making yourself so obvious. Like, you're running around, talking to everybody in this outfit that stands out.
Well, clearly they're not of a sane mind. So maybe they thought, this will help me look innocent. I'm a friendly neighborhood guy that's just lost. Wrong, dude.
Definitely wrong. You stood out in not a good way.
So now this is the only suspect, and I think that stands to reason because of just all the details we have. And on October 3rd, 1994, just about a week, a little over later, police had stopped more than 500 people who were driving or walking through the area, especially the road where the Paceys lived, to ask if anyone had any information. I mean, you must live here, you must frequent this street at least. Have you seen this man? Have you seen this car? Do you know anything? And really, that's where most of our information comes from in the aftermath. I don't have any more information on the overalls man from that weekend to give you, but this is also where the sketches of the man in the blue overalls were given out, passed, I think, door to door in the neighborhood to really kind of say, hey, keep an eye out for this guy. But of course, unfortunately, as is the true nature of this podcast, the identity of the man in the blue overalls was never found. We don't know who this man is, and the case went cold.
It's so wild that this person was so out there. Like, here I am to so many people, and then like, okay.
Every time, whether it's clues that are in your face, whether it's them contacting the police with a cryptic note, or whether it's like everyone kind of seeing them, but they don't know. Just because you're wearing overalls doesn't mean anything until it does.
Right.
And then you realize just how close to something or someone you kind of were. And then all you can do is go coulda, shoulda, woulda. So while the case did go cold, this isn't the last revelation of the case. The case has since been re-examined, re-explored, part of other theories. So let's kind of talk about those. And there is one potential identity of the overalls man, which has since come and gone. But just for the sake of being complete, I do want to explore it. So of course, a lot of public speculation on who the man could be. But this is where I want to reference the UK show Crime Watch once again, because in 1994, they aired their episode about this murder, and they had a dramatization, which is just like a dramatized reenactment of what happened. I think you can find screenshots online, and it is uncanny. Like the Audi in the driveway of the house, man in blue overalls leaving the house. It's very vivid if you want to go see it. But in 2015, Crime Watch actually revisited the case. And this was interesting because it included clips of the original episode. There were people familiar with the case and familiar with the man in blue overalls who actually saw this episode, and they started to get confused, and they started calling the police. They said, hold on a second. The actor playing the man in the blue overalls is way too accurate to the actual man who did the case, who perpetuated this murder. And so they're thinking, whoever the actor was, that's the guy.
Oh,
we need to go
wild.
investigate that guy. So of course, after all these calls came in, right? Maybe this actor was him. Who knows? Maybe they just wanted to get high on their own supply and be like, I look like the guy.
Wild.
It would be absolutely unhinged. So they know who the person was. Obviously, it was an actor. Steve Watson, 53-year-old by the time of 2015. He was called in for questioning. Coincidentally, he lived only a few miles from the area, so the opportunity is there.
Okay.
However, because of DNA collection and they have a full DNA profile on this person, he was cleared of any wrongdoing. There was no DNA match with the criminal. So, beyond the mistaken identity of Steve Watson, the unfortunate actor who got called in for being the person he portrayed, the identity of the overalls man remains a mystery. No one has since been able to put a name to the potential identity of the man in the blue overalls.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's so weird that you'd be pulled in for questioning because you look too much like, I mean, that was the whole point. You're an actor or whatever. Or you sign up for the role. Also, would be wild if you were the person that committed these crimes and then went, I'm gonna act on this reenactment and play myself.
Right.
That's the most wild thing I would have ever heard. That's
How do you think they would have gone about getting that gig either way? They're clearly not an actor. Well, Steve Watson is an actor. So maybe, okay, on one hand, you have an actor who murdered somebody and then luckily came across a gig that was for themselves. On the other hand, you have a murderer who committed a crime and then sometime later that year gets lucky enough to portray themselves. I think, again, it's a little flimsy, but I'm glad they tested it. Who knows?
Right. I mean,
who knows?
Who knows? But as the actor, I would have been like, okay, sure. I mean,
he's like, look, I can bring my own outfit and check out what I can do to my cheeks. And then they get red. It's like, this is the guy.
You did too good of a job.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
As we all know, this case has no other suspects and has since been cold. It has come and gone over the years. In 2001, it was suspected that the same man who murdered Julie Pacey might have also been the murderer of 21-year-old Sharon Harper. This was another murder that happened in Grantham just 4 months before Julie's. And this information was actually part of a bigger kind of theory or investigation called Operation Enigma, where a national police investigation took place looking into dozens of unsolved murders involving women throughout the 1990s and across the United Kingdom. Harper was a bartender. She was murdered when she was leaving her shift at the local pub where she worked there in Grantham. She had been strangled to death, beaten, and then disposed in the undergrowth near her home. But so a little bit of a different profile.
Yeah.
But due to the proximity of the two murders, I think it was wise that two near proximity unsolved cases, murder of a woman, I think it was wise to at least investigate them, see if there was any connective tissue, but then also look across the dozens in the UK across the 90s and see, hey, do we have a serial killer on the loose that's actually doing all of these? However, no evidence came to light to show that these two murders were directly connected, let alone maybe all of them. I don't know if Operation Enigma did result in some sort of serial murderer, but if it did, it didn't involve Julie Pacey's case. Then again, in 2015, I kind of already mentioned this, but new technology allowed for a full DNA profile of the killer to be created. And not only did Steve Watson not match this profile, but it was also held against the entire UK National DNA database, and there were 0 matches. So whoever this was, they were either not in the system, or perhaps they had just not committed a crime of this level before.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to know, but again, since these kind of small revelations and minor reopenings of the case has remained cold, and to this day, police urge anybody with any helpful information to come forward with that. And it's been a while since I've given this caveat, but I will do it again. Of course, whenever there is a, yes, cold case, but still relatively active, if they're looking for information, task force don't just go throwing out questions or broad theories. Only if you have information that is helpful to the case should you ever kind of contact the authorities. Otherwise, you kind of risk mudding the waters and kind of wasting resources. As you all know, I know this, but just want to say that.
Yeah, just to put that out there and just remind people, we do have a lot of new task force members that roll in and whatnot, so always a good caveat to have it out there.
Absolutely, yeah. But with that, this has been the murder of Julie Pacey. A lot to digest, as always, deeply unfortunate, and no more unfortunate than when it's unsolved. I mean, there's just no closure there. So,
and it's just upsetting in terms of like how, I don't know, how obvious they try to be about it, and then you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just,
man,
you were running around being so obvious, and then you're able to get away with this heinous crime.
Yep. If you start asking me where Watson Street is and start pestering locals about street names and where to go, you know what? I'm just going to be safe and put you in my book.
Yeah.
You know, you don't be treading around with heavy boots and overalls, asking weird questions.
No, you just
or
don't.
You're going in the book of suspicion. And it's thick. I'm a little paranoid.
Yeah,
but yeah, that is the case of Julie Pacey. And as we come to an end of this episode, Fredo, as you astutely pointed out, we have a lot of new members of the task force. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you like unsolved mysteries, if you like true crime, and every now and then we break the tension and bring you some paranormal stuff. We just had a whole month of it for October, but if you like some of the unknown that can also be trickled in, it is our bread and butter. It is our speciality. So if you like that, join us, because every Monday I walk Fredo through another case, and they range from the morbid, the macabre, to the downright interesting, the conspiratorial. They have gone all over the place at this point. But with that, I want to give some shout outs to our task force members that support us directly on our Patreon at redwebpod.com. You keep the lights on, and you also get exclusives. You get the podcast ad free. We give you weekly stuff at this point that we always let you know at the top of the episode. But in no particular order, we have Hayden N., who is our newest member of the task force. Thank you for becoming an elite task force member. We have Rio One Shu, who is a buff scientist member, slanging and banging with that vascular buff brain of yours. And then, of course, our squonks of the week are Brett O'Meara, G, Zarathustra, and Andy Schrock, just to name a few. Task Force, as always, thank you so much. And Fredo, any closing thoughts before we dive out of here?
Oh, this is a frustrating one.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just are. You know, kind of like this with the Zodiac. The Zodiac killer was so in their face
dude,
stuff.
Talk about peak flaunt. That guy's ego, the taunting, it's sickening. And it's like, it's kind of the one we always go back to because of how overt it was, because of how close we got. And then, of course, because of all the people that came through to say, it was me, pick me. And get out of the way. It's not you.
Get out of the way.
You know, it's like the scene in any given action movie when they're chasing the perp through the crowd and you're just you're watching Bond push everyone out of the way and just be like, just get out of the way.
Yeah, just move.
Vamonos, children.
Move. I'm yelling. Stop looking and move.
Yeah. Another frustrating one to be sure. But with that, Alfredo, I'll see you right back here next Monday for yet another mystery.